All right, so I think it's update time. It's time to talk a little bit about this car, what we went through whenever we were doing the AOD to T5 swap. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, there wasn't a whole lot to it, and there's not a whole lot to it. Really, the only complicated part is the clutch pedal assembly. That's a little more complicated. We didn't have to tackle that. But I'm sure you guys probably have some questions as, well, how did it go? What's involved in it? And to be completely honest with you, it's about as straightforward as you can get. Now, we had some issues though. One of the issues that we had was the input shaft was basically too long. It was a 94-95 transmission, so the input shaft was the stock 94-95 input shaft, but it had a Fox body bell housing on it. So that posed a problem. The input shaft stuck out a little bit too far. So we had to address that. So all we did was put a Fox body input shaft in it, and we were good to go. Outside of that, you know, we had a clutch. I bought a new clutch cable, bought a new throwout bearing, and a new pilot bearing. We already had the clutch for it. We pretty much had everything, guys. It wasn't really a big deal. We had a drive shaft. So wasn't really a hard swap, to be completely honest with you. The hardest thing was getting that heavy ass AOD out. Man, those things are, God, those things are heavy. Especially obviously with the converter still in it, which we left in. We've got some problems though, as you all know. Now, I'm going to go ahead and address some of the comments. I typically don't do this, but I could care less. We're just going to address it. So this is my channel, and I do things the way I like to do things, which is not like 5.0 Tussin. It's not like Foxcast. It's not like Demon Fox, Staying Domination, Junkyard Dogs, any of this, okay? And that's shout outs, by the way, for all those guys, because I love all those guys. But I'm not them. I'm me. I do things my way. And if you don't like the way I do it, then please, by all means, I'm begging you to go to another channel. Don't stick around here if you don't like how I do things, because I do things the way I like to do them. You got to remember, guys, the way that I told you I was going to do this was put the transmission in, get everything hooked up, and have a running car. That way we can pull this thing back apart anytime. Like right now, every single thing is in place for this to be a 5-speed car. It is now a 5-speed car. Now the console's obviously not put back together, but I mean, we have a shifter, we have our clutch pedal down here. So think about it. It's like if you already have a 5-speed car and you pull the transmission out and you need to rebuild it or replace it, you know the only thing that you have to do is get that transmission fixed, or go out, buy you a transmission and put it in, right? Because you know all the other components are there. That's basically where we're at with this car right now. That's why we do things the way we do them. There's a method to my madness. Now, you may not like it, and that's fine. Like I said, there's other channels out there that do it differently. But I don't feel like I have to explain myself to anybody, but I do want to let you know what goes on in my head as to why I do things this way. If you have a different way of doing things, but it motivates you, it keeps you passionate, then by all means do it that way. But for me, I can't do that. I'm not going to inspect every little piece and part. You know, I throw caution to the wind. I'm a shade tree mechanic. Anyway, guys, for those of you who, you know, stick around and you leave positive comments and you're here for, you know, the Fox body content, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Myself and Andrew and everybody that works our ass off on all this stuff, we appreciate the comments. Speaking of the devil, there is Andrew. Moving on from that, I'm going to probably chop this up, because I'll go ahead and let you know ahead of time. There was a really long rant in this, and you probably didn't get to hear all of it. Essentially, what I think might be happening is the starter's not engaging. Either it's engaging too tight onto the flywheel, or there's a gap there. I've still got to do a little research on it. Believe it or not, guys, there's not a lot of information out there. It gets really muddy out there on the internet whenever you're trying to find, you know, information about different bell housings and flywheel combinations. But I mean, this stuff is very universal. You can use this type setup on almost anything out there. The T5 swap is very, very common. So we just got to figure out exactly what's going on with this as to why it's eating the starter up. I say eating the starter up. I mean, this thing it won't even spin anymore, guys. It went from what you heard in the video to horrid. I'm not even going to hit the key because it's probably messed the flywheel up at this point. No big deal. We've got another flywheel. We've got another brand new starter. So we're going to put all that stuff on. So that's kind of where we're at. But getting back to, you know, what it takes to do one of these swaps, there's really, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it seriously is. You remove your AOD, you take your transmission lines out, you take your shifter out, and you set the crap to the side. And you literally bolt your bell housing, your clutch, your transmission, and you're done. I mean, it's about as simple as it can get. So, there's really not a lot I can tell you. We didn't have to do the clutch pedal swap, so yeah. I can't really tell you much on that.
I've never had to do a pedal assembly, but I imagine it's not fun.
Yeah, the clutch pedal is probably the hardest part. I've never done it personally, but I've been around some people who have.
I ain't never even been around nobody that has.
Yeah, Ronnie Spivey's done a few.
I can lay in there on the floor and replace the quadrant until he's done on it.
Yeah, and obviously whenever you do this, you're going to have a quadrant, you know, on the dash. If you don't have the stock quadrant, you can run the aftermarket aluminum ones, you know, with the 2 adjusters on it, 2 double ears, hooks. Yeah, the double hooks. That's preferred, or triple hook is fine. You're probably going to need a adjustable quadrant under the hood, but it's not necessary. If you've got one with the factory plastic quadrant on it, and you're going to put that in the car, that's fine too. You can run that. Just be mindful you don't want to really run a super heavy clutch with a setup like that. We've talked about it before. I want to touch on it one more time, just real quick. With these T5s, if you want these things to last, and I'm not a transmission expert or guru, not even a Fox body expert, but I can tell you this, and it's something that I learned from, well, through the years of doing, you know, racing these cars and stuff, and also, you know, honestly, watching 5.0 Tussin. A big clutch will kill a transmission, especially a T5. They're fairly weak. They're good transmissions. They really are. I know you guys, there's a lot of you out there hating on these transmissions, and it is what it is, but they are actually pretty good transmissions. So you put too much clutch in this thing and something that really engages really quick and aggressively, and you're probably going to tear your transmission up. So be mindful of that. I like a spec stage 1 or either the motorsport clutch, something like that. So keep your clutch kind of simple. Don't over clutch it. What else? There's not really much else to say. Time frame on this car is going to be about what I told you. I may get a wild hair tonight. I don't know. I may crawl under the car, go ahead and just pull the transmission out and see what's going on with it. It's not that big of a deal. So I may do that. I know you guys saw this in the background. So let's go ahead, go over here, talk about this real quick. So your boy learns just like you do. I get on YouTube and I research stuff and I try to figure out how to do shit. That's how a lot of this got done, was by research. I'm still learning. I've always been terrified of transmissions, especially manuals for some reason. I don't know what the deal is with that. But got a couple friends of mine that actually can rebuild them. Ray can rebuild them, and Jason Strouder can rebuild these things. So I got to looking around on the internet, watching some videos, and I'll tell you the video that I watched that really did it for me. Junkyard Dogs. I'm here to tell you, that guy is straight up. He knows his shit. Man, I watched. He's got a 3-part series where he rebuilds the transmission. I think it's a total a 4 or 5 part series. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll add it in my playlist, and I'll put a link to it right here for you guys. So check it out. If not, it'll be down in the description. If you want to learn about T5s, he breaks it down in layman's terms where anybody can understand it. And after watching that video, I think it's about probably maybe 2 hours long, total for all 3 videos. After watching that, I truly felt like I could get out here and do a T5 rebuild. I don't necessarily have all the tools that I need, but we can get it done nonetheless. This transmission over here was one that we had. I don't know. It might have been one of mine, and Andrew got it. It may have been one that Andrew got from somebody. We don't know. We've had a couple of them just kind of laying around. So I figured, hell, I'll just take Andrew's transmission apart because it's not mine, right?
Not mine. I wasn't told it was mine.
Yeah, as long as it's somebody else's, we pull it apart. But so anyway, I went ahead and pulled this thing apart, and look, guys, it went just like I saw on video. I was proud. I really was. Now, that's completely different than putting it back together. So the reason for pulling this one apart is just to see what was wrong with it. And I'll be honest with you, one of the main things that I found, I don't know if it'll show up on camera, is right there, guys. The tip of this main shaft right here, which is where your input shaft goes on, is scarred up. So thing's done. I mean, it's just that simple. That you can't use that when it, or so I understand anyway. I'm sure you could use it and it would turn, it would work, but you're going to either get a lot of noise or you're going to basically wear your input shaft out and all that stuff and other bearings in your transmission. So I know a lot of you out there have rebuilt your own transmissions. Kudos to you. But I'm getting there, guys. I'm going to do one. I don't know if we're going to do this particular transmission simply because it does need a new main shaft, or I know they can be reconditioned, but I don't know of anybody around here that can do it. And you can pick one up on eBay pretty cheap. Counter shaft looks pretty good, honestly. That gear's a little sharp. That's the one that the input shaft rides on. So the counter shaft really probably needs to be replaced too. So basically you're looking at a case and a couple of gears over here. You can buy a new counter shaft, I think, for 100 and something bucks. You can buy a used main shaft for 100 and something bucks. Now I know a lot of you are thinking right now, this is the perfect time to go to a G-Force setup or something like that. I'm not spending the kind of money to go to a G-Force setup. And have you seen the work you got to do to get the G-Force gears in these cases? And I know they make a case. I'm not doing that, guys. I'm good. If we rebuild this, we're going to shim the hell out of it. I know, because everybody was telling me go check out 50 Tussin, see what these guys are doing to beef these transmissions up, which is what I did. And I'm glad. Thank you so much, honestly, for kind of pushing me in that direction, because I needed that little extra push. Once I got to looking around, I got really interested. Semi-obsessed, probably, with it. But I've watched about every video there is on the T5 stuff now. And I know the little upgrades that we need to do. So let's talk about that real quick. Now, there again, guys, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be. This is just information that I picked up online. But I will share it with you guys real quick, like in case you were wondering. Because everybody always says there's upgrades you can do to a T5. What are they? Now, these are some of the upgrades that I'm aware of, the very common ones. On the back side of the transmission right here, this plate that holds this race in right here, this plate is stamped steel, so it's really weak. So what this does is that gives you your tolerance and your end plate on your counter shaft. So there's obviously a bushing that goes in here, a shim, as you guys can see right here. What you can do is upgrade this to a billet piece, and this will hold everything tight against the case. So once you get your shims in and everything, you're not going to have any flex. This counter shaft flex and end play will destroy your transmission. These pads, you can upgrade those. Also, your synchro tabs right here, you can upgrade these. So those are some of the things that we're going to do. And also, like I said, check in play, make sure everything's good and tight, and we very well may build this transmission. So those are just a few things. Obviously, go in, deburr all the gears and stuff like that. So I think we're going to give it a try. Like I said, guys, I'm just reciting, you know, what I've seen online. And a lot of these guys, I trust them, so I believe it. And I probably got some of this wrong, you know, terminology and stuff, but that's fine. I'm going to do some more research on it and really try to touch up on this. And there's a good chance that we'll probably fail, you know, at our first build. I don't know, but we're going to give it a try anyway. If it does fail, I'll just blame it on Andrew. So I know this is a really boring video, nothing going on. I just wanted to come out here, talk to you a little bit, give you a game plan on what's going on. Is there anything else, Andrew, we need to talk about? Can you think of anything? You want to tell everybody, like, Merry Christmas or some shit?
Yeah, that works. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right, until next time, as always, thanks for watching. I need to do the hand thing.
You're as cuddly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel, Mr. Gray.